Your life is every stage of being a cyberpunk edgerunner. Stage 1, Street Kid. You grew up in Night City, which sounds glamorous until you actually have to live there. This is a city run entirely by megacorporations, meaning the closest thing to a government you've ever known is a faceless entity that owns your apartment building, your hospital, your food supply, and the cops who show up when things go sideways. You were born in one of the lower districts, probably Haywood or Pacifica, somewhere the corporations don't really bother maintaining because the return on investment just isn't there. Your parents either worked themselves into an early grave trying to pay off corpo debt, got killed in gang crossfire, or worse, ended up as one of Night City's countless missing persons. You grew up fast. You had to. The city doesn't really offer a soft landing for anyone, but it especially doesn't offer one for you. Here's how Night City works, because you're going to need to understand the system before you figure out how badly it's going to grind you down. At the very top, you have the megacorporations, entities like Arasaka and Militech, which have more military power, financial leverage, and political reach than most sovereign nations. Below them are the fixers, the middlemen who connect corporations and clients to freelancers willing to do the dirty work nobody wants a paper trail on. Below that are the gangs, carving up every block of every district with territorial precision. And somewhere at the very bottom of this incredibly charming pyramid, you've got people like you. Street kids with no corpo affiliation, no gang loyalty, and nothing but nerve and a willingness to bleed for a paycheck. You're an edgerunner. Congratulations. Stage 2, your first job. You got connected to a fixer. Maybe someone you knew vouched for you. Maybe you ran a small favor that turned into a slightly larger favor. And suddenly you've got a contact who sends you gigs in exchange for a cut. Your first real job is small. You're retrieving stolen data from a low-security warehouse on the outskirts of the city. You've got a cheap handgun, a second-hand cyber deck you bought off someone who definitely didn't steal it, and a set of cyberware that a ripperdoc installed in a back-alley clinic with questionable sanitation. The job goes mostly fine. You get in, grab the data shard, get out, and only get shot at twice. You deliver the shard, collect your eddies, and feel for the first time like maybe this city actually has a place for you in it. It doesn't. But you don't know that yet. Your cyberware is worth talking about, because it's central to everything you do as an edgerunner, and also to every problem you're about to have. Cyberware is essentially the process of replacing your biological parts with mechanical or synthetic upgrades. You can get subdermal armor plated under your skin, optical implants that let you see through walls, reflex boosters wired directly into your nervous system, and blades that fold neatly into your forearms until you need them. Sounds incredible. The catch is that your body and brain can only handle so much of this before something called cyberpsychosis starts setting in. That's what happens when the human nervous system gets so overwhelmed by synthetic augmentation that the person starts losing their grip on reality and their capacity for empathy. They become unpredictable, then violent, then extremely violent. Then the Max Tax Squad shows up and puts them down. Fun system. Stage 3, building a crew. You can't run every job solo. Eventually, you link up with a small team, other edgerunners operating out of the same general area with overlapping skill sets. You've got a net runner who handles the digital side of things, a tech who keeps your gear from falling apart mid-mission, maybe a solo who's all muscle and very little conversation. This is your crew. This is your family. In the way Night City allows people to have families, which is to say loosely and with the constant background awareness that any of you could get killed on the next job. Your fixer starts sending you better contracts. The eddies improve. You upgrade your cyberware, which feels like progress and is also quietly making the cyberpsychosis clock tick a little faster. That's fine. You're not thinking about that right now. The corpo angle is something you run into more and more as your reputation builds. Corporations hire edgerunners constantly. They need deniable assets, people who can do things that an official Arasaka security team can't be seen doing. Steal prototype tech from a rival corp. Extract a scientist who wants out but can't officially defect. Destroy evidence of something that would be very bad for a quarterly earnings report. You take these jobs because they pay well. You tell yourself you're just the instrument, not the hand holding it. That's the kind of reasoning Night City produces in bulk, because the alternative is staring directly at what you're actually doing and who you're doing it for. And that's a thought most edgerunners don't survive long enough to finish. Stage 4, getting a name for yourself. Word spreads in Night City. Your fixer starts calling you personally instead of through automated message drops. Other fixers reach out. You're getting invited to bigger jobs, higher risk operations with significantly more eddies attached to them, which is how the city maintains the illusion that risk and reward scale together in any fair or rational way. They don't. What actually happens is that the jobs get harder, the targets get more dangerous, and the corporations start noticing you specifically. Being noticed by a megacorporation is, uniformly, a bad thing. They're either thinking about recruiting you or thinking about eliminating you, and the gap between those two outcomes is thinner than it sounds. You keep running jobs, your reputation keeps building, your cyberware keeps accumulating. Here's where the cyberpsychosis problem becomes more pressing. You've been pushing your Chrome hard because the jobs demand it. Your reaction time is superhuman. Your pain tolerance has been dialed down so far that you barely register getting shot anymore, which is convenient and also deeply alarming if you think about it from a clinical perspective. The Ripper Doc who handles your upgrades gives you the same speech every time. You're approaching your tolerance threshold. You need to ease off. You nod, you pay him, you walk out and take the next job anyway. This is, statistically speaking, what every Edgerunner does. Night City has a whole category of urban legend built around Edgerunners who thought they could manage the Chrome better than the last person who thought they could manage the Chrome better. Stage 5. The Corpo Trap. At some point in a successful Edgerunner's career, a corporation makes you a genuine offer. Not a contract, an actual position. Full benefits, a corpo apartment in a clean district, steady pay, medical coverage that doesn't involve a guy named after a fish working out of a converted garage. It sounds good. Some Edgerunners take it. What that actually means is that the corporation now owns you more completely and efficiently than the streets ever did. You sign an NDA that covers everything you've ever done for them. Your movements get tracked. Your cyberware, which is now officially their property, can be remotely deactivated if you stop being cooperative. Strictly between you and me, the Corps don't actually want Edgerunners for their skills long term. They want them diffused. A good Edgerunner who goes corpo is an Edgerunner who stops being a liability. If you don't take the offer, though, things get complicated in a different direction. Because now you've turned down the corporation and the corporation has noted that. You're back to running jobs, but now there's a layer of additional scrutiny on everything you do. Corpo security teams start showing up at job sites a little too quickly. Your fixer gets a visit. One of your crew members gets pulled in for questioning about something unrelated that is definitely related. Night City runs on information, and right now there is a mega corporation with essentially unlimited resources compiling a file on you. That file is going to be used for something eventually. The only question is timing. Stage 6. Losing people. This is the part they don't tell you about when the idea of being an Edgerunner still sounds exciting. Your crew takes losses. It's not a matter of if, but when and how often. And the how often part accelerates as the jobs get bigger. Someone in your crew miscalculates a position, or a corpo trap was better laid than expected, or the cyberpsychosis that one of your team members was quietly managing finally tips over the edge at exactly the wrong moment. You don't really process it at the time. Night City doesn't build a lot of infrastructure for grief. You file the loss away somewhere, keep moving, take the next job, because stopping means the bills stop getting paid, and the Corps stop fearing you, and the whole precarious structure you've built comes apart. You add more Chrome, your tolerance threshold gets a footnote from your Ripper Doc. The gang dimension of Edgerunner life is something people underestimate. Gangs run the districts you operate in. Valentinos, Tiger Claws, Maelstrom, Animals, the list goes on, and each one has specific territorial claims, specific grudges, and specific responses to outside operators working their turf without the right clearances. You have to maintain working relationships with all of them simultaneously, which means favors owed in multiple directions, careful neutrality during intergang conflicts, and the constant low-level stress of knowing that one misstep in the wrong alley costs you an alliance that took months to build. Maelstrom in particular are worth noting because they've embraced cyberware augmentation past any functional limit, replacing so much biological material that most of them are operating at varying degrees of cyberpsychosis at any given moment. They're terrifying to negotiate with. They're worse to fight. Stage 7. The endgame most Edgerunners get. Night City has a phrase for it. The city eats you. It doesn't happen all at once. It happens in accumulated increments across every close call, every piece of Chrome pushed past the limit, every crew member lost, every corpo deal that cut slightly against you, every gig that paid less than the risk it carried. Eventually, the Chrome catches up with you, or the Core catch up with you, or the gangs catch up with you, and there isn't a version of the story where an Edgerunner just quietly retires to a beach somewhere. The city doesn't have beaches. It has scavengers who harvest implants from bodies in back alleys and a black market for organs that moves faster than any legitimate medical supply chain. Being an Edgerunner means accepting, somewhere in the back of the part of your brain that still processes things honestly, that the house always wins. You're just hoping your run lasts long enough to matter. The few Edgerunners who survive long enough to accumulate real reputation and real money hit a ceiling that the city doesn't advertise. Because once you're successful enough, once you've done enough jobs for enough fixers and enough core and enough gangs, you know too much. You've seen the inside of too many operations that powerful people would prefer stayed invisible. Your survival at that point is entirely conditional on the ongoing calculation that keeping you alive is less expensive than removing you. The moment that math flips, and it always flips eventually, the city's machinery turns toward you with the same impersonal efficiency it turns toward everything else it wants gone. You've made a career out of being useful and dangerous. The problem is that those qualities have a shelf life in Night City, and the city has never lost any sleep over expiration dates. So that's what it's like. You grew up with nothing, clawed your way into a profession that treats your body as expendable hardware, took jobs for people who view you as a disposable asset, loaded yourself with enough chrome to blur the line between person and weapon, and built something real out of it for a while. The eddies were good, the jobs were wild. The crew was something close to family, and Night City took notes on all of it the entire time, waiting for the moment it could use what it knew.